Chelsea have just beaten Fulham 3-2 in Xabi Alonso's first Premier League game in charge. And somehow, after scoring 3 goals and winning the game, I'm still not entirely sure whether I should be celebrating or calling for a new goalkeeper. Because there were a lot of positives from this performance. João Pedro scored after just 32 seconds, Morgan Rogers scored on his Chelsea debut, Cole Palmer got the goal and an assist, and Chelsea's attacking football at times was absolutely ridiculous. But then there was the other side of the performance. Chelsea conceded twice, Robert Sanchez had a game to forget, and Fulham probably should have made this a lot more uncomfortable than it already was. So let's go through the game, the positives, the negatives, and ultimately answer this question. Should Chelsea fans be excited after this performance? Because I think the answer is, well, yes. But there are a few things we need to talk about first. Let's start off with the obvious. Chelsea got off to an absolutely ridiculous start. Just 32 seconds into the game, Maxence Lacroix won the ball in the midfield. It fell to Cole Palmer, who produced a nice little pass to João Pedro, who takes it in a stride and lifts the ball over Bernd Leno to make it 1-0. In 32 seconds. I had quite literally just sat down. And for João Pedro, this was another brilliant moment after an excellent pre-season, so it makes me really wonder why Carlo Ancelotti decided to leave this man out of his World Cup squad and include Igor Thiago, who did absolutely nothing. But more importantly, have Chelsea finally broken their number 9 curse? Because if you're not familiar with the Chelsea number 9 shirt curse, let me explain. Over the years, Chelsea have had some pretty big names wear the number 9 shirt. Fernando Torres, Alvaro Morata, Gonzalo Higuain, Romelu Lukaku and Pierre-Emerick Aubameyang. And for one reason or another, it just hasn't worked. We've spent years signing strikers, putting the number 9 on their back, and then watching them struggle to consistently score goals for Chelsea. It's got to the point now that Chelsea fans almost joke that the shirt itself is cursed. And now João Pedro came along, had an outstanding first season wearing number 20, and then this season he's taken the number 9 shirt. This did leave me with some trepidation as to what will now happen for this coming season, but then he went and scored 32 seconds into the season. 32 seconds! I mean, if you're trying to break a curse, that's a pretty good start. And the funniest part, this isn't even just about the shirt. João Pedro actually looks like the type of striker Chelsea have been missing. So maybe, just maybe, the curse is finally over. But despite the perfect start, Chelsea didn't exactly have everything their own way. Fulham grew into the game and Chelsea's problems at the back just started to appear. Robert Sanchez looked nervous and shaky, and eventually Josh King punished Chelsea in the 23rd minute to make it 1-1. It's frustrating because Sanchez really should have got down quicker. I get he probably thought King was looking for a cross without realising the acres of space at his near post. It's frustrating, but thankfully Chelsea responded. After creating a number of chances, Maxence Lacroix found himself on the right wing, somehow, and managed to pull back from Morgan Rogers, who calmly swept it home to make it 2-1 to Chelsea. What a way for Rogers to announce himself. I saw an Arsenal fan on Insta hope he didn't score or get an assist on this game, and hope he becomes a £117 million flop for Chelsea, just because he didn't sign for Arsenal. So it is nice to see that it took 40 minutes for him to be proven wrong. And then came the second half. Chelsea came out flying again, and João Pedro and Palmer combined beautifully. João Pedro drove forward, waited for Palmer's run, and then slipped him through. Palmer then did what Palmer does best, stayed completely calm, opened up Leno, and nutmegged him to make it 3-1 to Chelsea. At that point, surely Chelsea were comfortable. Well, this is Chelsea. Of course they weren't. Fulham responded almost immediately. A long ball caused problems, Sanchez could only parry the initial effort, and Gonzalo Garcia reacted quickest to head home the rebound, making it 3-2. Suddenly, what could have been a comfortable Chelsea victory became a very uncomfortable final half hour. Fulham pushed for an equaliser, Chelsea had to defend. Fulham almost got there if it wasn't for Anthony Robertson completely missing. It should have been 3-3 as well. It was an open goal because Sanchez was just in no man's land, but Robertson just completely missed it. It was weird, but yeah, there were a few moments where Chelsea fans probably started considering whether turning off the TV might have been a good idea. And I don't mean when Enzo Fernandez came on the field, but Chelsea survived and the game ended Fulham 2, Chelsea 3. First game, first 3 points, and a winning start for Xabi Alonso as the new Chelsea manager. And here is where we get to the interesting part, because there was a lot to like here. Let's start with the obvious positive. This Chelsea attack looks fun. João Pedro, Cole Palmer, Morgan Rogers. These three looked dangerous throughout the game. And what I really liked was how interchangeable they were. They weren't just standing in 3 positions waiting for the ball. Palmer could drift across, Rogers could move inside, João Pedro could drop deeper or run beyond the defence. And when those 3 started combining, Fulham just simply couldn't keep up. Palmer finished with a goal and an assist, João Pedro had a goal and an assist, and Rogers had scored on his Chelsea debut. That's a pretty good evening at the office. And considering this is Xabi Alonso's first competitive game in charge, it's particularly encouraging. There were already signs of the attacking structure Alonso wants to create, and if these 3 continue developing their understanding, Chelsea could cause some serious problems this season. Actually, I've just realised something. This front 3, I reckon this front 3 is so good it needs a name. Like, you know how you have MSN at Barcelona, or, what was it, Bale, Benzema, Cristiano at Real Madrid? I think that was the name, but yeah. Well, we've got João Pedro, Cole Palmer and Morgan Rogers. So what are we calling this? I've seen a lot of people calling it JP Morgan, which is kind of hilarious. Or is that just Matisse that calls it that? I'm not sure. I'm pretty sure I have seen him pushing that one, but yeah. We've got Palmer, Rogers, Pedro, RPP? No. Palmer, Pedro, Rogers, PPR? Quite like that one actually. I feel like it sounds a bit like a mortgage company. No, that's not really the point. That's actually quite good. PPR, I'm claiming it. There you go. Someone clip that. Unless they have a better name, in which case please tell me in the comments. Honestly, I think this is going to be one of the most interesting things to watch this season. Because this isn't just 3 good players. Their profiles actually complement each other. And if Alonso gets this attack firing consistently, we could have something here. Something very good. And speaking of PPR, we need to talk about João Pedro. Because I genuinely think this guy might have just broken Chelsea's number 9 curse. And I don't say that lightly. I know I did say that earlier on in the video, but I'm going over this again because it's mental. We've seen Chelsea buy striker after striker, put the number 9 shirt on them, and everything fell apart. And then João Pedro has basically just walked into this shirt and scored 32 seconds into the season. But it wasn't only just the goal. His movement was excellent. He dropped into the midfield, he ran beyond the defence, and he linked up with Palmer and Rogers. He even created Palmer's goal. That is exactly what you want from your centre forward. And when you combine that with what he showed last season, there is a very good reason to be excited. And speaking of exciting, Morgan Rogers. What a debut. Not only did he score, but his overall performance was really encouraging. He was playing from the left side of the attack, but constantly moved into central areas, linked up with Palmer and João Pedro, and worked hard off the ball. And then there was the goal. Lacroix does brilliantly to get forward and puts the ball across, and of course it's an open goal. Rogers is going to make no mistake. And that's exactly the kind of movement you want from a player operating in that position. Obviously, I'm not going to start giving him the Ballon d'Or after one Premier League game, but if this is the beginning of a Palmer-Rogers partnership, I am very excited. And the really exciting thing is that Rogers just doesn't have to be the star every week. If Palmer is the main creator, if João Pedro is the striker, Rogers can just give Chelsea another player who can attack space, carry the ball and score. And that is a very dangerous combination. There is also another player who I want to give credit to, and that is Maxence Lacroix. It was his competitive Chelsea debut, and he looked very comfortable for large parts of the game. But the really interesting part was his involvement going forward. He didn't just sit at the back. For Chelsea's second goal, he drives forward, beats his man and gets to the byline before putting the ball across to Morgan Rogers. There's a centre-back making a genuine attacking contribution, and if Alonso wants his defenders to be comfortable stepping forward and helping create overloads, Lacroix could be a very useful player for him. But there is a problem, and unfortunately this does lead perfectly into the negatives. Because for every really encouraging thing Chelsea did going forwards, There was another thing happening at the other end that made me want to put my head through a wall, and we need to talk about Robert Sanchez. I think it's fair to say that this was not a good game for Robert Sanchez. He looked uncomfortable throughout the match, and his handling was a major concern. The first Fulham goal really summed it up. Josh King hit a low effort from a tight angle, and somehow the ball squirmed through Sanchez. Like I said earlier in the video, I'm not sure if Sanchez was thinking that King would cross the ball in. Either way, he completely forgot about the acres of space in front of him and at his near post, which King used to get a sneaky goal. He realised it too late, which is why he got down too late, meaning Fulham got an easy one. Then for the second goal, Sanchez saved Castaño's shot, but couldn't hold on to it, allowing Gonzalo Garcia to head in the rebound. Once again, I'm seeing parallels between Robert Sanchez and Andre Onana when he was at Man United. Because Sanchez did save it, but he parried it straight back into danger, which is what Onana would do. And also why Mark Goldbridge used to call him a professional volleyball player.
Bloody Teflon hands! Slips right out of his hands. Absolute prat!
And you know, when I'm able to use Mark Goldbridge clips on Onana to describe Sanchez, there are problems. Now, obviously, Sanchez isn't responsible for every problem Chelsea had defensively, but when you're trying to compete at the top of the Premier League, you simply cannot afford to make goalkeeping errors like that regularly. Because Chelsea did enough going forward to win this game comfortably, the problem is their goalkeeper helped keep Fulham in it, and that is something Alonso is going to have to look at very seriously. But Sanchez wasn't the only issue, as Chelsea's defensive organisation still looked shaky at times. Fulham had spells where they were able to play through Chelsea too easily, and Chelsea struggled to control the game after going ahead. And that is particularly interesting because Chelsea didn't actually dominate possession. Fulham had around 60% of the ball, but Chelsea still had more shots, and I think that tells you a lot about this team. Chelsea were dangerous, they were direct, and they could hurt Fulham, but they didn't necessarily control the match. And I guess that's fine against Fulham on the opening day, but if you're talking about Chelsea becoming genuine title contenders, you can't expect to concede this many chances against Arsenal, Liverpool, or Man City, or even Man United to be honest, and simply hope Cole Palmer just scores another one. Eventually, somebody is going to punish you. And this leads me on to probably the biggest takeaway from this game. Chelsea were 3-1 up. At that point, the game should have been under control. Instead, Fulham got one back and suddenly Chelsea were hanging on. Now, there is a positive side to this. Chelsea did hang on, they showed some grit, they defended their lead, and they got the 3 points. But Alonso is going to want more control than this. Because imagine playing like this against one of the bigger teams in the league. You go 3-1 up, concede, and then spend the last 20 minutes desperately trying to protect that lead. It's not sustainable. The encouraging thing is that this is exactly the sort of problem that can be improved with time. This was Alonso's first competitive match after all, and these are new players who are trying to be integrated into a new tactical system. And Chelsea is still learning how this team is supposed to function. So I'm not going to sit here and pretend the sky is falling down, but it is certainly something to watch. So now, should Chelsea fans be excited? Yes, absolutely. But let's not get carried away here. I know I literally predicted Chelsea to win the Premier League, so I probably don't have much credibility here. But seriously, there are some genuinely exciting signs. João Pedro looks dangerous, Cole Palmer looks back to his best, Morgan Rogers has immediately shown that he can contribute, and Maxence Lacroix looks like a really interesting addition and much needed in that defence. Not to mention that Alonso has already got Chelsea looking much more threatening going forward. But there are still major questions, like can Chelsea fix their defensive issues, can Sanchez be trusted, or can this team control games against a stronger opposition? And perhaps most importantly, can Chelsea turn exciting football into consistent results? Because that's the difference between having a good season and actually challenging for the Premier League title. And going back to PPR, honestly, if Pedro, Palmer and Rogers keep playing the way they did tonight, I don't really care what we call them. We can call them PPR, we can call them JP Morgan, or just the Chelsea front three. I don't really care. Just keep scoring because this attack feels different, so hopefully, eventually, we could call them Premier League champions in May. And if João Pedro really has broken the Chelsea number 9 curse, we might finally have a striker who doesn't make Chelsea fans spend the entire season asking, when are we signing another striker? Let us not forget that we signed Liam Delap for £30 million last summer to make him the 9 and hope that he broke that number 9 curse, and now we're trying to ship him off. I think we're trying to get a Nottingham Forest loan deal or something. I'll need to look. Overall, Fulham 2, Chelsea 3. It was a chaotic game, it was a brilliant attacking performance, there was some questionable defending, but most importantly, we got the 3 points out of it. Xabi Alonso gets his Premier League career at Chelsea off to the perfect start, and there are already some very encouraging signs about what this team could become. But Chelsea definitely haven't solved all of their problems, and honestly, I would rather have problems after winning 3-2 than losing 3-2. So now I'm really interested to see what happens next, because if Chelsea can keep producing performances like this going forward and tighten things up at the back, maybe my Premier League prediction wasn't quite as crazy as everyone thought. So let me know what you thought of the game in the comments. Are Chelsea genuine title contenders? And most importantly, what are we calling this front three? JPR, JP Morgan, or do you have something better? Either way, if you did enjoy this video, please be sure to leave a like. I put a lot of work into these videos, and liking it actually lets me know I'm doing something right. If you're new around here, make sure to subscribe, because there is going to be a lot more Chelsea content coming this season. Thank you so very much for watching, and I'll see you all in the next one. Goodbye.